Alright, we have our next game ready and set. We are going to be seeing a Protoss versus Zerg on Bel'shir Vestige. I don't know whether it's pronounced Vestige or Vestige. And we are waiting on Starfire to be ready to start the game. But this map is fairly easy to take a third and a fourth base on, depending on what side you go for. But there are also lots of alternate attack paths that you can take, so expect a lot of counterattacking from the Zerg player. Alright, we are starting up the game. And let's see what sort of things come out from these players. Stargate play is very strong against Zerg players, but of course, if they do get that Corruptor Mutaball, it's hard to beat as well. So we'll see if we do a Forge Fast Expand from the Protoss player, or if he goes for a Gateway first, and that will basically determine the pace of the game from then on. So as you can see from the map, we do have a fairly easy to secure third base from each side, but when it gets to the fourth bases, you can choose from either side, and that will dictate where most of the aggression happens throughout the game. Of course, Protoss with warp prisms or warp-ins from proxy pylons can help deny bases, but those Zerg fast units like Zerglings and Mutas can also do a lot of damage if you are caught out of position. So, just waiting for the game to start up, and should be starting soon. Starfire just tiny bit. Okay, there we go. So here in the upper left corner of Bel'shir Vestige, we have our elite player Esteki. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And in the lower right corner of the same map, we have the Protoss player Starfire from Xtraterrestrials. No sort of shenanigans happening early on in the game, no probes running out on the map to put down proxy gateways, but still no indication of what's going to be happening from now. It looks like going to be a pylon in base. This could still be a forge in base just to be safe, but this is most likely going to be for a gateway first. And of course that will mean that there's going to be earlier aggression coming out from the Protoss player. Just droning again happening from our Zerg buddy. Overlord is being sent over to the... Whoa, okay. But he's being sent over to the natural expansion. This is just to check to see if you're being cannon rushed. And we should see whether or not he throws down a pool or goes for hatch first. If he goes for hatch first, it may actually be slightly worse for him. For Starfire, because there's nothing he can do. He can't cannon rush the base, and he won't have any sort of units to provide aggression, at least not from that far across the map. And it looks like we are actually going to be seeing a hatchery first coming out from the Zerg player. So playing very greedy, very risky as well, but it is going to pay off for him because there's not going to be any aggression coming out from the Protoss player anytime soon. And we do have double gas coming down behind this. This is most likely just to get enough gas for a Mothership Core, Warp Gate, and also maybe a Stalker if he does decide to go for that. But we'll see whether he goes for some sort of tech and what sort of tech it is. Gateway finishing up, we should see a Cyber Core coming down as well. There it is. And pool starting as well for the Zerg player. No gas taken for him, so he has not yet identified that it is not a Forge Fast Expand, but as soon as he sees that gas going down, this is going to be able to provide him with either the ability to tech or Zergling speed just to hold off any sort of early aggression that does come out from the Protoss player. And we do have only 2 workers in each gas, so that is going to mean that he's going for a more economic route, most likely going to be throwing down an expansion after his Mothership Core is finished up. And we should have just enough gas for a Mothership Core and for that Warp Gate as soon as the Cyber finishes. Not doing anything quite yet, wanting to save his money to throw down that expansion. But lots of drones transferring down to the third natural expansion. Actually, that's quite a lot of drones. You could have kept most of those up at the main base, but 2 queens started up and 4 zerglings. These zerglings aren't going to be doing much of anything, as we do have the mothership core almost finished up. And we should see a stalker or a zealot coming out from this gateway. He's actually spending quite a lot of chrono on this warp gate research, so he's most likely going to be going for some sort of 4-gate pressure while he's droning up, or not droning, but probing up, making those workers. Still nothing coming out from this gateway, so this is most likely, yeah, this is going to be a 4-gate aggression coming out. And an Evo chamber coming out, very early Evo coming out from Esteki. And probe just scouting, no third base quite yet. These 4 zerglings actually haven't run across the map to see anything. So this probe going to be, where is it going? Going to run to its doom, not going to be able to figure out much of anything, since that queen will most likely be able to pick it off before it reaches the main base. Nope. Okay, but the second queen does run up and kill that. Nothing started from the Evo chamber quite yet. This may be just to throw down spore crawlers in case tech comes out from Stargate tech comes out from Starfire. Second gas started up, and no indications of a third base being put up either. Both players macroing fairly well. We are going to have a slight supply block coming out from the Zerg player, and we are going to be having that 4-gate aggression coming fairly... No, actually he's not going to be doing 4-gate aggression. He has no proxy pylon set up, no probe out on the map, and so not sure why he decided to go for those 4 gateways, maybe just for safety, but I would actually prefer to see if he went for a forge just for that cannon. This will of course mean that he has more units, but it will mean that he is slightly more vulnerable once he moves out. And we do have Twilight Council on the way, so this may be for Dark Templar, maybe just for Blink or Charge, but there we go, Dark Shrine started up, and no Overlords in position from Esteki in order to spot that. Actually, no Overlords on the map really at all. Most of his Overlords are camped out in his base, but he does have quite a few Zerglings out on the map. Not going to be doing much of anything though, as we do have a nice wall off coming from Starfire, and a Hallucinated Phoenix going to be spotting what tech is coming out from Esteki. And it will be roaches, so maybe wanting to put on some roach pressure. I would be surprised to see if it did a whole lot of damage, but it could do damage if he micros well, and if he catches Starfire off guard. 2 gases in the natural expansion finishing up for our Protoss player. I would expect him to throw probes in there fairly soon, as gas is very important for a Protoss player. And a forge finally starting up in the main base. We do have charge on the way as well, so this is going to be for Charge Lot Archon most likely. And third base about halfway done for Esteki. That's actually a very, very delayed 4th base. He does have quite a lot of tech, but he's not going to be having a whole lot of economy to back it up, or at least not the super economy that most Zergs are used to. Once this layer finishes up, we'll see what sort of tech he throws down. I wouldn't be surprised to see if he went for mutas, but more of a Hydra Roach composition is more likely. He is getting the attack upgrade, I believe he got for... Where is the roaches? There we go. No, he didn't get an attack upgrade, so that was actually a melee upgrade for Zerglings, I believe. Yep, so he's most likely going to be going for some sort of Ling Muta play, maybe wanting to do some Ling Roach, but this DT most likely not going to be able to finish off this hatchery. I actually should have warped in more DT before sending that one in, because it's going to be a waste of his resources. It's going to be doing damage to the hatchery, of course, but not going to be actually finishing off. And he got no scouting information out of that other than roaches, but he should have seen those anyway from that Hallucinated Phoenix. And he is postured on the opposite side of the map, Protoss player, so he may be able to finish that off if he force fields the ramp, putting him in a fairly good position. And more units coming out from Starfire, and he's pushing out. If he force fields the ramp, he will be able to snipe this base. Spine Crawler's not finished up yet, and lots of drones just transferring right now. And force fields, need a third one. There we go. Okay, so a lot of Zerglings do get through, but that Archon will be able to do short work of those. And actually, this caught Esteki off guard, and he is just now producing a bunch of units, and we do actually have an infestation pit on the way. So not sure if he wants to rush for that ultra tech, or if he's going to go for a more slow pace of the locusts or the swarm hosts. No third base coming out from Starfire. He does actually have quite a lot of money banked, so he could throw that down and still be fine. Zerglings being roasted by those Archons. Actually, what do Archons shoot? It's like a giant psionic shockwave is what it's called. So I'm not sure whether that's fiery or whether it just hurts a lot. But more units still being warped in for Starfire. He still does have quite a bit of bank. Actually, his probes can't get out because he walled himself in. And he actually has no cannon back here either, so not sure why he would bother doing that. Robotics facility is finished up for him, but no sort of Robotech being thrown down quite yet. Counterattack coming out from Esteki. So if he does catch between warp-in cycles, excuse me, if he does catch, actually not even counterattacking, just head for that third base. There is no third, of course, from Starfire. This is actually quite surprising that he hasn't thrown down a third or continued warping in. And actually a probe just setting up a closer proxy pylon, and third base being set up on the left side of the map for Esteki. But this is looking actually very bad for the Zerg player. His bank is very depleted, and he's only slightly ahead in the army count. Roaches and Zerglings do get a surround on this army, but Time Warp will give Starfire the edge in that fight. And a Spinecrawler will force this away for now, but Starfire, seeming like he just has too much stuff. If you look at the army supply, it is in Starfire's favor, only by a little bit, but it is still going to be very hard for Esteki to deal with this, and it looks like he is going to be having to get out of this game fairly soon, unless he can figure out some way to deal with these Archons. Right now he has no solution for them. No sort of tanky units other than the Roaches, and those are being taken care of by the Zealots and DT. And actually he has no Overseers in his army anymore, so these DT are going to be doing a whole lot of damage. Not sure if Esteki realizes. There we go. Overseer just finishing up now, but it is too little too late. He is dropping rapidly in supply, and having to pull drones to fight is never a good sign. Another Time Warp going down, and GG comes from Esteki. Starfire wins the game, so currently it is 2-0 for our extra Team Elite, not doing so well. So we'll see whether or not they decide to pull out a star player, so to speak, or whether or not they decide to play more conservative and stay or keep their star player back for the moment. So Starfire doing a great job in that game. A little bit of macro discrepancy there, or not discrepancy, but just slipping a little bit on his macro. And he is still the victor of the game. But let's see what players coming out from these teams and what map it's going to be on for the next game.